Bach was working with a legacy of theological reflection and craftsmanship and ecclesiastical practice that was hundreds of years old. He didn't just come out of nowhere and say, hey, I'm going to write something to the glory of God. He actually inherited a set of practices that had been cultivated and winnowed and trimmed and perfected.
Hello, I'm Jarrod Richey, and you're listening to the Friday Five series from Musically Speaking, a weekly 5-minute podcast covering various musical moments curated by me for you. Today is Friday, February the 28th, 2025, and in this week's episode, we feature the one and only Ken Myers as he gives an interesting answer about the cultural variations in Baroque music, particularly that of J.S. Bach, and how that compares with Chinese music. Take a listen.
Imagine you're a craftsman of any kind, and you're part of a 1,500-year tradition. And then imagine the Chinese Christian that doesn't have, again, it's from creation, but it's creation as interpreted and understood in light of the Trinity, in light of Christology, in light of eschatology. So, yeah, there are created norms that are there, but I think the effort to dedicate and consecrate those created norms well, it leaves a kind of imprint within a culture. So it's interesting to me that people are willing to talk about how science or possibly political thought in the West benefited from Christian assumptions about reality, and therefore have a universal applicability that we can share with people. That somehow the Christian culture of the West, of Christendom, gave birth to wisdom concerning politics and concerning the natural world that was unavailable, say, in China or Egypt or wherever, India, wherever they had the capacity to do science and did it. I want to say that God did something, and God blessed the efforts of the church to use these natural gifts, these created gifts, and the kind of craftsmanship that emerged in those settings really did have consequence. There's a reason why there are more Chinese people studying Bach than there are Westerners studying Chinese classical music, I think. So I would say that to deny the idea that God blesses the trajectory of faithfulness in a particular cultural form over time I'm really reluctant to say that. So I think that there is an idea of a heritage, legacy, stewardship that is blessed. That doesn't mean that there can't be wonderful discoveries of created order, but I think they might tend to be more primitive, less ramified, less developed than would be the case again, it's kind of bad to put Bach up against somebody. It's not really fair, but...
That was Ken Myers talking about J.S. Bach and answering a question posed to him at the 2015 Auburn Avenue Pastors Conference in Monroe, Louisiana. The speakers included Ken Myers, as you heard there, James B. Jordan, Douglas Wilson, Peter Leithart, Steve Wilkins, really an all-star lineup of speakers, and that was from the Q&A session number 7. I'll put a link to that in the show description. But as Ken Myers articulates, it's not coincidental, I would suggest, and I think he would probably agree, that the greatness of Bach and his study in cultures like the Chinese culture and the Japanese culture, I would posit is precisely because he is downstream from the Reformation, because he's a grandchild of the Reformation and Martin Luther and the Reformers, so to speak. And that should be a model for us, that the greatness of art and culture, Western culture, as good as it has been, is only as good because of the greatness of the Bible and the biblical culture. So if we want to see a greatness again, we've got to see a return and a thriving biblical and Christian culture. Well, that's going to do it this week for Friday 5, and tune in next week. We'll have more of the same. So thanks so much for listening. Take care.